So you should have done the rest of the solutions for Tim's garden services for the general ledger entries. There are quite a few of them. So I really would suggest that you take your time, you work through them slowly one by one and make sure that they are correct. I've given you the solution. You can print out, you can make sure that you mark it, identify where you're going wrong, make sure that yours is fixed because we're going to use this going forward to create the next lot of stuff as well. So make sure that you get this right and that you're comfortable with this. Again, I warn you against taking things too quickly, especially when you start something off. When you learn something new, always take a little bit of time to make sure that you're comfortable with why you're doing it and you don't get lost in the detail. So this is a whole lot neater than the video that I went through with you, indicating, you know, the first couple of them that I went through with you, but the idea is the same. You'll see in the folio column in the reference, I've given you the transaction numbers so you can see exactly where they come from. And this is because, you know, transaction number 10 here affected capital. So it doesn't, you know, things don't always work nicely in order, but it means that you can always follow and you can identify exactly where the debits and credits are. So this is a very good idea in an exam if you can do that. Is transaction number 1 was the capital transaction, and we see we credited capital, and the other side of the transaction went to the bank. So if we go to the bank, we can see transaction number 1 was debited as well. So you can follow all of this through. You can see capital was also affected by transaction number 10, and that went to equipment. So let's go and find our equipment. There's our equipment account. Oh, you can see that transaction number 10 has been followed through there. The stuff that I'm doing now, you can see someone would be doing in management as well. If this was my company and someone was preparing books for me and I went through this, it would be very easy for me to take a look at something in the bank and go, wait a minute, that 870 Rand, where did that go? What is that for? Let me get the details on that and go, oh, look, it was for petrol. Let me go and find the petrol account and see if there's anything inside there that I need to be aware of. And where is petrol? Not on there. There it is. Oh, and there we go. There's our petrol account. So when we take a look at this, it's very important that you keep track of what you're doing and you continually reference back and forth. So at all times, I can see exactly what you're doing. And obviously, you want the examiner to know that you know what you're doing. We can see transaction number 15. The guy, Tim, contributed his computer equipment to a value of 12,800, and that was transaction number 15. Let's go and take a look at the computer equipment account. If we can find it, tools, creditors, computer equipment, there it is, transaction number 15 on the 20th of March for 12,800. So we can see all the debits and credits, and you can see how easy it is to trace back and forth exactly what came from where. What we then need to do, and what we also spoke about, was closing off the transactions. So in some cases it's nice and easy. In this case, you just need to add them up. So make sure you go through all of your accounts and you close them off. So we've now reached the end of the month and you need to prepare the monthly accounts. You want to add them up. So the total effect on capital, there has been 118,400 effect on capital. The bank account is a tricky one because that has transactions on the debit and the credit. So our balance carried down, we can see 79,904. Where did we get that from? Remember here, we add up both the debits and the credits, and we identify which one is higher. In this case, the 132 was higher. We subtract all of these transactions from the 132, and you would have had your little total at the bottom there, remember? And that will give you your 79,904. Please make sure you know how to get to that particular amount. Your equipment was nice and straightforward, also just one side. So is your advertising, your vehicles, your finance, your pay less. This is now money that we owe. So this is a liability. You can see the first transaction on the 3rd of March, we have a liability for 95. And then on the 31st of March, we paid 5,000. So the debits and credits here obviously indicate any payments that have been made against that amount. So at the end of the day, Tim actually only owes 90,000. Again, it's very nice to keep track of. At one place in one statement, he can see, okay, I actually only owe 90,000. So it's very clear, very understandable, all your debits and your credits. Your service is rendered, nice and simple. Drawings, nice and simple. Your debtor, again, you want to keep track of your debtors. You want to make sure that you know how much they owe you, how much they've paid you. And in this case, because we've got it in the same account, you can see that on the 6th of March, transaction number 8, Tim rendered services for 650, and then on the 20th of March, deposited 650 from Mr. Naidu into the bank account, and that leaves you with the balance of 0. If there's a 0 balance, we can just leave it off. We don't need to take it further to the trial balance, but make sure that you do close this off so you can identify, does this guy still owe you anything? Did he maybe overpay his account? So we put everything together where it belongs. Petrol, nice and simple. Tools, nice and simple. Creditors, again, is exactly the same. I want to identify how much more I owe my creditors. In this case, 19th of March, Tim took 3,700 rands worth of goods, and on the 29th of March, he paid 300, which leaves him with a total liability now of 3,400. Computer equipment, nice and simple. Interest received, salaries, and your loan from the bank. What you can see I've done here at the bottom is also create totals for the entire balances. I've done them in green so you can differentiate them. Go back and do them yourself. You do not need to use different colors in your exams. And go back, total all of your subtotals, and you should get to the same amount. Hey presto, we can smile because we know that our general ledger balances, for every debit, there's a credit. Making sure that we understand that every single transaction affects more than one side. So this clearly tells me that my calculations are correct. It clearly tells me that I have dealt with the debits and the credits correctly. Just because yours adds up to the same, make sure you pay attention to the detail. If you got one of these calculations or one of these accounts completely wrong, your debits and credits may still be right, but the account itself may be wrong. So make sure that you cover this, make sure that you go through this, and then we're going to take this further, and the next thing we're going to cover is the trial balance. When we look at the trial balance, I'm going to refer back to this, so keep this with you, keep it open. And what I want you to see from this is that although we do have totals, take a look at how cumbersome it is. Take a look at how much stuff there is. I only gave you 20 odd transactions, 21 transactions, and it's taken 4 pages to give you the information. It's taken 4 pages to communicate what's been going on. There's got to be a faster way. There's got to be an easier way, and there's got to be a way to take this, break it down, and give it in less detail, to summarize it a little bit more. And that's what we're going to do with our trial balance. So keep this in mind, keep this with you. I'm going to be referring back to this as we go on.